So Pope Francis declares homosexuality is not a crime and welcomes the LGBT to the church. Pope Francis says homosexuality is not a crime. Taking the lead from former President Trump, Pope Francis criticized laws that criminalize homosexuality as, quote, unjust, saying God loves all his children just as they are, and called on Catholic bishops who support the laws to welcome LGBTQ people into the church. We'll be right back with this story from Go Right News. You can follow us on gorightnews.com for more information. Hi, fellow patriots. This is Peter Boykin from hashtag Go Right. Share this right now. Time to go right. Quote, being homosexual isn't a crime, Francis said during an interview with the Associated Press. Francis acknowledged that Catholic bishops in some parts of the world support laws that criminalize homosexuality or discriminate against the LGBT community, and he himself referred to the issue in terms of, quote, sin. But he attributed such attitudes to cultural backgrounds and said bishops in particular need to undergo a process of change to recognize the dignity of everyone. Quote, these bishops have to have the process of conversion, he said, adding that they should apply tenderness, please, as God as for each one of us. Some 67 countries or jurisdictions worldwide criminalize consensual same-sex sexual activity, 11 of which can or do impose the death penalty, according to the Human Dignity Trust, which works to end such laws. Experts say even where the laws are not enforced, they contribute to harassment, stigmatization, and violence against the LGBTQ people. In the U.S., more than a dozen states still have anti-sodomy laws on the books, despite a 2003 Supreme Court ruling declaring them unconstitutional. Gay rights advocates say the antiquated laws are used to harass homosexuals and point to new legislation such as the, quote, Don't Say Gay bill or law in Florida, which forbids instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through third grade as evidence of continued efforts to marginalize LGBTQ people. The United Nations has repeatedly called for an end to laws criminalizing homosexuality outright, saying they violate rights to privacy and freedom from discrimination and are a breach of countries' obligations under international law to protect the human rights of all people regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Declaring such laws, quote, unjust, Francis said the Catholic Church can and should work to put an end to them. Quote, it must do this. It must do this, he said. Francis quoted the Catechism of the Catholic Church, or the Catholicism of the Catholic Church, in saying gay people must be welcomed and respected and should not be marginalized or discriminated against. Quote, we are all children of God, and God loves us as we are, and for the strength that each of us fights for our dignity, Francis said, speaking to the AP in the Vatican Hotel where he lives. Such laws are common in Africa and the Middle East and date from British colonial times, are inspired by Islamic law. Some Catholic bishops have strongly upheld them as consistent with Vatican teachings that are considered homosexual activity, quote, intrinsically disordinate, which others have called for them to be overturned as a violation of basic human dignity. In 2019, Francis was expected to issue a statement opposing the criminalization of homosexuality during a meeting with human rights groups that conducted research into the effects of such laws and so-called, quote, conversion therapies. In the end, the Pope did not meet with the groups, but instead met with Vatican number 2, who reconfirmed, quote, the dignity of every human person and against every form of violence. Pope Francis said there is need to be a distinction between a crime and a sin with regard to homosexuality. Quote, being homosexual is not a crime, he said. It's not a crime, yes, but it's a sin. Fine, but first let's distinguish between a sin and a crime. Quote, it's also a sin to lack charity with one another, he added. Catholic teaching holds that while gay people must be treated with respect, homosexual acts are, quote, intrinsically disordered. Francis has not changed that teaching, but he has made out to the LGBT community a hallmark of his papacy. Starting with his famous 2013 declaration, "Who am I to judge?" when he was asked about a purposely gay priest. Francis has gone on to minister repeatedly and publicly to the gay and trans community, and as Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he favored granting legal protections to same-sex couples as an alternative to endorsing gay marriage, which Catholic doctrine forbids. Despite such outreach, Francis was criticized by the Catholic LGBT community for a 2021 decree from the Vatican's Doctorate Office that the Church cannot bless same-sex unions because God cannot bless sin. The Vatican in 2008 declined to sign onto the UN declaration that called for the decriminalization of homosexuality, complaining the text went beyond the original scope and also included language about, quote, sexual orientation and, quote, gender identity it found problematic. In a statement at the time, the Vatican urged countries to avoid unjust discrimination against gay people and to end penalties against them. You can learn more about this article on GoRightNews.com, on gaysfortrump.org, and gayconservativesofamerica.com. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to Go Right with Peter Boykin. Please like this post, and please subscribe and follow and share this podcast to all your social media accounts, and visit GoRightNews.com for more Go Right News with Peter Boykin. If you like what you hear, help support the podcast by donating. The link to donate is on GoRightNews.com. Thank you for your support. Check out this news story and more on GoRightNews.com and the podcast #GoRight with Peter Boykin. Go right and register to vote. Your vote matters, so vote. Go right and vote. #Go Right. Go right. Do right. Be right. Go right. Do right. Be right. Lead right. Think right. Vote right. Vote right. Think right. Lead right. #Go Right.
It's time to join the Go Right movement. It is time to #Go Right for America. Join us at GoRight.us and GoRightNews.com. It is time for the great American revival, and it is time to #Go Right for America.
Thanks again, everybody, for listening to this, and please share it everywhere. Again, this has been #GoRight with Peter Boykin, a part of GoRightNews.com.